Debates or forums should only be moderated by librarians or school teachers.
Keep your hands to yourself. 4 on the floor. Do not eat that paste. This is the energy that we're looking for.
I really think so.
Yes.
Bottom line is we have to make Vermont the best place in the country to raise kids, to be a working family. Because our demographics, that's the root cause of everything we've just discussed today. That's what this governor says. That's what we all know.
Hello, Vermont. I'm Andy Julo.
And I'm Joanna Grossman.
And this is There's No Way in Creamy.
Vermont politics, culture, and beyond.
Thanks for joining us.
Hello, and welcome to There's No A in Creamy. How you doing, Andy?
Terrific. We're live from the skate shack. Well,
live from the skate shack?
Won't be live. I mean, we'll play this as a recording.
Yeah, for us it's live.
We're live. The rest of you are not.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm so happy to be back up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It smells roughly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is the first time we've done this video setup in the shack.
Yeah.
So actually, people haven't really seen it before. So if you're watching on video, so we started recording in the skate shack our first season, I think, roughly our first season.
100 years ago.
A million years ago was in the skate shack, and we are back here in the islands. And this is like the podcast summer home, but we haven't been back for a long time.
No, and there's actually like the video clips we did in the past, you really couldn't see skates.
You couldn't see anything.
You couldn't see any skates, right? So we've doubled the number of skates from last year, and it was super popular. 467 people checked out skates last winter.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It's a hit.
Yes,
Not just as a podcast studio.
Do you want to tell people if we're talking about it, what it is?
It's just a library. So we have, I think, about 100 pairs of skates
town are we in?
here. We're in North Hero. Yeah. We are right across from Lake Champlain, and we create a skating oval and a skating rink out there, and we light it up at night, and it's there as long as we can keep it for the season. Great Ice Festival is kind of the centerpiece of the whole thing. But yeah, you can come over here if you don't have skates, and I guess a lot of people don't. Yeah. Come in here, grab a pair, check them out. That's all we need to know, and bring it back when you're done.
It is so cool. And you guys have this, again, it's not, I feel bad that we're talking about it now because it's not open because it's summer. But in the winter, it's like this amazing lit up rink on the lake. And it's very cool.
I've had 2 different groups reach out to me about Airbnb reservations for Great Ice. So people are already starting to ask. So I need to get the website up to date.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so it's super fun to be back in the shack. Yay. And we've had quite a week. So a couple days ago, we'll get to more of it soon. Yeah. But a couple days ago, we had a little campaign retreat, and we hiked up Mount Mansfield.
Yes, we did. That was great.
Oh, that was bucket list for me to do an outdoor campaign retreat. This was it was pretty unstructured. We mostly just hiked up Mansfield and talked about some stuff. And then we got to look out on the district.
Yeah, we ate our peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and looked out on the district.
Yeah, it was so great. Underhill State Park.
Underhill State Park. We heard a lot of birds.
Yeah, when we found out how bad we are at identifying them, even with the app.
You had the app.
Yeah, Merlin.
We're good at letting it identify.
Yeah, it did okay. We heard a lot of really good birds, and we saw a couple.
Well, every bird is brown and small, so I really feel that they're not standing out and distinguishing themselves. I feel like this is on them.
Yeah. I was really excited that we heard the hermit thrush because it's a state bird.
Yes, and the ZZZZoo, which one? That's black.
Black-throated green.
Black-throated green.
Andy, I am so proud of you right now.
I'm trying to learn.
That's so amazing.
My goal was to get to the bottom and be able to distinctly pick out one bird call.
Okay.
I did not do it.
Well, maybe.
I didn't do it. Well, it wasn't. Yeah, we just heard such a variety of birds.
You heard the magnolia warbler on the way back down.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you did. You killed that.
Yeah, well, it was still in the same location. So I was like, oh, that sounds familiar. And I remember this spot.
Yeah.
So those 2 clues put it together for me. So baby steps.
Yeah. That was really fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so last week, also we're jumping around a little here, but so...
That's what we do.
Yeah. So last week, the UNH poll came out. Has been much chatter in the political ecosystem about that. Would have been a really good pivot there if I just used the word ecosystem.
Oh yeah,
riffed on that. Okay, anyway,
we're not professionals.
No. So So this poll came out, the UNH poll, and we talked a little about a few pieces of it, but there were a couple others that later on we were like, oh, we didn't raise some like really good points that folks should know.
Correct.
Do you want to mention those?
Sure. Well, I think the first was that the number of undecideds is still very high.
Very high.
So there's still a lot of voters up for grabs for all of these candidates, lieutenant governor and governor.
Yeah, and I mean, early voting is open. Like people can vote now through August 11th, which you should do.
Yep. And I mean, some of these are first time on a statewide ballot. Molly Gray and Esther Charleston are not. They've been on a statewide ballot before,
right.
But Ryan McLaren, first time. Amanda Janeau, Aly Richards, all brand new. So they're starting from scratch, building up name recognition.
Yeah. Yeah, tons of undecided still. I was really surprised about that. And it just seemed like the field, it's just wide open. We really don't know yet. And I think it's important to not get too carried away on those like little segments of folks who have decided.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of name recognition, I mean, UNH did a poll last fall or so, I believe, and it showed that Mike Pichek didn't have a strong shot against Phil Scott. But now we've seen the numbers shift considerably. Phil Scott has lost a lot of popularity. But I heard those numbers and I thought, I wonder if he might have pulled this one off on this particular year if he had just run.
Yeah, this would have been the moment. I mean, it does seem like there's a little bit of a softening on the Phil Scott numbers for sure.
Yep, and still some ways to go before November, so who knows?
Yes. Well, it would be nice if we could get that office back for the Democrats.
Yes.
Yes. So I've done a bunch of debates now. And again, this is my first time as a candidate, and I've seen my candidates experience many debates. Most of them have been pretty uneventful, and mine have been a little bit more eventful. And I have some advice to push out to the political ecosystem now. I said that before, didn't I? Just that phrase. Anyway, I'm pushing through.
Word of the day is ecosystem.
Ecosystem.
Right.
So I believe now that debates or forums, as we like to call them here, debates or forums should only be moderated by librarians or school teachers. Like, it should not be like oh, hey, you're a cool or semi-famous important person, or this is an honor we want to give you. Those folks are not necessarily cut out for moderation. Moderation should be someone who understands, like, managing, like, competing interests and chaos and shutting it down.
Yes. Keep your hands to yourself. 4 on the floor. Do not eat that paste. This is the energy that we're looking for.
I really think so.
Yes.
I really think so. I had a forum last night, and it was like a free-for-all. There was no structure. It was town meeting style, or town hall style. The questions were unscreened. The crew running it had no pre-formed questions. Someone grabbed the mic and made some crazy accusations about me that were totally untrue. And I was like, whoa, this is not nice. It's been a tough 12 hours.
It was off the rails, and after we came out of those first two, like, warning them, this was, nobody has been able to control the set so far. And we thought they understood. They did not understand the assignment.
Yeah.
And they exposed you, and it was wrong. It was a very uncomfortable night for everybody in that auditorium.
It was awful. I mean, like, we're laughing about it now because that's what we do. But it was really upsetting. And I would hate for that to happen to someone else. Like, it's just not, like, you need to take these things seriously. If you're inviting someone to, speak and promoting the act of candidacy, like, you've got to also be protecting it.
It's 2026. This whole political atmosphere has gotten bonkers. And if you're not careful, if you want to hold these things, you better be prepared to protect the people in them.
Yeah.
They were not last night. They did not protect you.
No. And I wouldn't expect another Jewish candidate to want to run after seeing what's happened to me, so it's just not okay. So yes, let's stick to librarians, kindergarten teachers. I think that they would have it under control. Everybody else, maybe think it through a little more.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
All right.
Okay, so another really fun thing that happened this week is I got to go back to Kurt Wright's studio. He came back to his studio, and we got to be in the booth.
Everybody's going back to their studio, their original studio.
Oh, yeah, that's
Kurt's going back to the carpet on the wall studio.
Yeah.
It's a nice studio.
Oh my God, it's so fancy.
And I like, people have gotten down on carpet and they've just gone right up the wall with it in the studio because it absorbs sound. But it's very
that's
80s
right.
Epcot to me. I like that.
You know what? That's really true. I hadn't really even logged it when we were in there, but that's
They just hit the corner, they crease the carpet over and just keep going up with the staples.
Yeah, it is good for sound management.
Sure, we could do it here in the skate shack. I think the skates actually eat the sound.
It actually does seem a little less echoey. I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, it's funny because I could never keep these sound acoustic panels on the ceiling. They keep falling off. Like one's about to fall on your head.
Oh, cool.
I don't think it's going to fall now. And
That'll
it is
be
foam.
fun.
It's not like it's
heavy.
iron, right?
Yeah.
It's just foam. But
It'll be entertaining if it happens.
it does. Yeah. Well, I closed up this wall too, so it doesn't echo into the Zamboni room anymore.
Oh, excellent.
Yes. So many sound engineers have problems with their waves bouncing off their Zamboni back to the microphone.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a big thing.
Yeah, there's a whole magazine article about it.
So it was fun to see Kurt. Yay, carpet on the walls.
Is that what we're talking about? Yes, I'm sorry. I
No,
took us
don't
way
be
off track
sorry.
with the carpet.
I feel
Yeah.
like the Zamboni acoustics are really important, and all our listeners are probably immediately changing their plans for their projects because of that. We have been. We're just telling you about how crazy our week was. Every week like that is crazy for us right now, and so we are continuing our series of rebroadcasting interviews that we think voters might be interested in the run up to the primary. So we are really excited to be bringing you our interview with Aly Richards. And she came on the show, I think it was the morning after she announced, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And she came on really ready to talk about the issues.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was impressive.
It was impressive. She totally hit the ground running. And it was really fun. And we hope you enjoy this interview.
Yes, we do.
Yay. Hello and welcome to There's No A in Creamy, Aly Richards. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Yay. that's
Newly
awesome.
announced governor candidate.
Yeah. At time of recording, you just announced yesterday.
Yes, it's fresh. It's fresh.
Congratulations.
So exciting.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. It's good to have a governor candidate in the race. Now we've got two. We'll talk more about that in a second. But it's just exciting to feel okay, the Democratic ticket's filling out. We're moving forward. That's really good. Yeah. Tell us, we know you, but we want your listeners to know you. So tell us a little about yourself, your background.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love it. Thanks again for having me and for doing this. The community conversation, it's one of my favorite things in Vermont. So I grew up in Vermont in Newbury on a dirt road. My parents still live there, spent a lot of time there still. And I went to Oxbow High School where my dad taught history and English. He was my teacher, of course, very unique Vermont thing.
Gosh.
I promise he did not cut me any slack. Actually, we just talked about history morning, noon, and night, on the rides to school and the dinner table, which I love, American history. And then I was actually appointed to the State Board of Education when I was 15 years old by Governor Howard Dean at the time.
Wow.
And yesterday at my announcement, we announced at the Newbury General Store, which was so meaningful. My goodness, it was like Vermont being Vermont, snow coming down, and then sun, in April. And Mr. Coffin, I still affectionately call him Larry Coffin, my ninth grade social studies teacher from Oxbow. He introduced me, and he was the one that encouraged me to apply to be on the State Board of Education. And I was only 15. I was the youngest member to do that. So that was sort of, you see yourself sitting at the table, aspirational models there, really my first entry into this world. So then zoom ahead, I went out of state like many of my peers and friends, hoping to change the world after I graduated, and found myself working on Barack Obama's first presidential campaign. And I'll tell you, I was prepared for a life of public service in DC to go right to the heart of it and solve everything right in the center. And what I found was, no way. Things were so broken in 2008. And what do I mean? They were so broken because people who didn't agree with each other did not work together already. It was only finger pointing. It was party over country all the time. And they didn't even talk to each other. So I know that's not how change happens. So I came home to Vermont as fast as I could, honestly. I wasn't gone very long. And I actually met my husband working on the Obama campaign. We moved home together. And then I started working for the governor. And then I started talking to people all over this great state, and that's so exciting. Vermont, we still got it here. We still talk to each other. We still go get a beer at the end of the day, even if we disagree. It's okay. This is how we function. And I realized, honestly, that most of the issues that people cared about, talking to people all over, affordability, access to good paying jobs. The access to affordable childcare was this like root cause. Because I was honestly so overwhelmed by the problems facing Vermont when I was out there, working for the governor. And I was like, how does a human solve these? You had to go upstream so you can pull a lever that's going to then go downstream and really affect all this. And childcare was one of those beautiful opportunities that just emerged as our lack of action is really crippling us. But imagine if we could actually do this, and there's a real solution. So then I was recruited. Honestly, childcare became my project for the governor. I helped pass universal pre-K, and I did a lot of other work pulling down federal grants. And then it became my life because I was recruited to run Let's Grow Kids. So I've spent my last decade at the helm of Let's Grow Kids, campaign for high quality affordable childcare. We passed the most significant childcare law in the country in 2023. So sorry for all those words. That's the whole history for you right there.
That's why you're here. Absolutely. I love that you're an Obama person. Like Obama people have we've got the inspo, right? It's he's just had this inspirational magic, but I can see how I can relate to you go out in the world and you think everyone wants to work together and solve problems, and you're
buzzsaw.
Oh yeah. So I can totally relate to that. Tell us why you're running for governor.
Oh, wow. Why am I running for governor? Well, I will say after a decade of working to solve this deep crisis that really dogged Vermont and the rest of the country forever. We've never figured out childcare in this country as infrastructure. I kind of took my head up and realized we have a 5-alarm fire everywhere else you look. You cannot find or afford a house. Healthcare costs are skyrocketing out of control. Our roads and bridges are crumbling. And honestly, if there's one thing the government should take care of, it's basic functioning infrastructure. I started hearing from Vermonters, frankly. This mom called me. This was a big day for me making this decision. The New York Times came up and said, we're looking at affordability in this country, and we're trying to figure out, it's going to define the national election. We're trying to find an example in this country of someone that's actually made life more affordable for people in a real dimension. And they said, hey, childcare in Vermont, it's actually more affordable for people now because of this law that they passed. So the New York Times came up and interviewed me and interviewed some moms and some early educators, and it was fantastic. I mean, it was like this 4-minute summary of our decade effort. It was so gratifying and amazing. So that happened. And the same day, a mom called and said, will you please consider jumping in for governor? Because we need some hope. Talk about Obama. She said, we need some hope. We need someone that was going to fight for working families. So that was one of those days where I literally took my head up and was like, wait a minute, who am I kidding? I'm a racehorse. I want to roll up my sleeves and solve problems, and I love Vermont. If we could do this on childcare, bring people together and focus on a priority and a goal, surely we can do it for housing, for our economy, for healthcare. And I'm excited to do that. I'm excited to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You were talking about Washington, D.C. and people not talking to each other. It reminded me of when we were running my campaign, and my kindergarten teacher and my second grade teacher, all these teachers were volunteers.
That's so great.
And she asked, I don't know how you can run in your own community and being this small, but you can't hold grudges. You have to talk to everybody because you're going to see them 2 to 3 times a day or drive by them on Route 2 or Route 15.
Oh, Andy, I love that. It's about, I've been feeling that same thing so much these last couple of days. It's relationships.
Right.
It's like last night at Bar Hill, we had, over 200 people there. I mean, it was like a wedding, you know what I mean? It's almost like the same emotions in some way. I just took a minute and just let it wash over me and was like, if you think about it, I kind of been training my entire life for this. Just being out in the community as a real human. Because the people that were there, my kindergarten teacher, my 9th grade teacher, my dad, who was my other teacher, my principal, who was the principal of the year of Oxbow when I was there. You know what I mean? And he said, I still have my picture of us at the State House, from 20 plus years ago. And my ex-boyfriends were there. And their moms. It was pretty funny because it's the mom of one of my ex-boyfriends was at the launch in Newberry, and she was telling everybody, our relation to each other. And it was but that's what you're saying, Andy. Yeah. To me, I was like, heck yes.
Yeah.
It's about relationships.
Absolutely.
Everything is about relationships. And nowhere do you see that more closely than Vermont.
Sure.
We're so special in that way that, I always say our strength is our smallness because Vermont is so small. You really can't afford to be a jerk. You have to be nice to people and build relationships.
We got to hold on to that too, right? I don't take that for granted because if we lose that, we're cooked. It's one of the last places in the world that has this special thing. It's like the carrying capacity of a democracy is like a smaller size where we actually know each other enough to like pull each other out of the ditch. I've been joking about this. My classmate from Oxbow and from growing up in Newbury, actually, he's the guy who has the tote company in Newbury. And the only time in my life, I don't remember a couple of years ago, you guys remember that mud season was so terrible, like shut the state down. The one time in my life we got mired in the mud going to my parents' house in Newbury and pulled me out of the ditch. And I was like, what a metaphor, you know, for just the way we function here.
Yeah.
So you grew up on a dirt road, which turns to a mud road in the spring.
Sure does.
I grew up on a dirt road, and I still live on a dirt road. But as a party, Democrats are losing that rural contingency. How do we start to reach out and build that bridge and bring rural Vermonters back into the Democratic Party?
Andy, it's so important. I got to say, you know, talk about what we were just saying, how important it is for us to hold on to this idea of, you know, your neighbors, you know, your community. That's how we're going to take care of ourselves and each other. And I worry deeply about the satisfaction of folks in this country. And I don't want to see that in Vermont because, you know, you see how people get unplugged and disengage and, you know, honestly angry if you feel like, oh, you're coming for our schools and then you're coming for our hospitals and now you're coming for our land. You know what I mean? It's about listening. So for me, it's about listening better to our rural communities and bringing them in because we're seeing some things right now, for example, that it's like a good idea and it's like one size fits all. You know, it's like the idea is let's build more housing. Yes, I think we all agree to that in Vermont now. The question is how and where and why, you know? But then you have this like blanket law that didn't listen to rural communities and its goal is worthy, but it doesn't actually get to the goal. You know what I mean? Like the way it was written is just sort of this blanket thing that actually has a bunch of unintended consequences. And so if you're someone in a rural community, can you imagine what that feels like? You know, like you're sort of like the power is getting taken away from you. So we must bring them in is the first thing, Andy. And how do you do it? Honestly, I think you listen. I think you provide more tools to communities instead of mandates. I think that you give incentives and frankly penalties, you know what I mean, to actually shape the exact thing you're trying to achieve from a policy perspective. Not one big blanket thing, oops, sorry, didn't realize it was gonna do this, the XYZ, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It does seem crazy to me that we're at the same time we're trying to close rural schools and then we're also trying to stop those communities from building more housing that families could potentially move into. Yeah. And I'm like, wait, we've got to sync up here. This is not working.
Exactly what I'm trying to say, Joanna. I mean, that's the thing. We have to grow our way out of this. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's running a state is a very balanced proposition. There's only so much you have to work with. We have a finite amount of taxpayers here, you know, and so the idea is like, you know, we got to get out of these classic ideological, you know, political tropes. Democrats tax and spend, Republicans cut. Neither of those are working for us right now in Vermont. This is a structural issue. This is a structural situation. We have to grow our way out of this. So housing is such a great example. You know, the Rural Caucus, the governor, you know, Let's Build Homes, which gotta love that name. You know, they all agree 30,000 housing units by 2030. Now, you can imagine a gal like me loves that, okay?
Right.
Childcare by 2025,
yep.
Housing by 2030. Yeah, well, the question is, let's actually understand if that's our goal, everything we got, put towards that. Get a ticker on the State House lawn and see our collective, you know, growth and hold ourselves accountable. Are we getting there? No, we're building 1,200 a year. So the reason I'm really going to focus on housing, and I want to talk about it more and more and more, is because we agree. And that's what I mean by growing our way out of this. If you actually build homes, our property taxes come down. We revitalize our communities. You take the pressure, like release valve off of these educational conversations that are tearing our communities apart. You know, you actually bring down our healthcare premiums because more humans in our insurance pool will make it cheaper for everybody. You know, and you actually will get those doctors, those nurses, those teachers in to those houses. So we have services. So it's not like a, you know, it's a dynamic situation. It's like a root cause, right? Just like childcare. You build those houses, we start to change the structural issues that are strangling us here.
Yeah. Okay, so housing, big issue for you. I love that you're diving into that because it is so important. I mean, our listeners are very concerned about it. All the voters I talk to in my district, very concerned about it.
Yeah.
Are there other issues that you're feeling like you really want to get out in front on? You really want to dive right into?
Healthcare.
Yes, let's talk about it.
Well, so a bunch of things on healthcare. Happy to hear your targeted questions too. But, I'll start by saying when I was in the NICU with my twins, so I have 7-year-old twins, Bo and Wes. They're amazing, and they're at my back all the way here. I have to say it's been so great watching them see me run for governor in the last 24 hours. They're with me all the way, holding the signs, asking me the best questions, learning how to run a campaign, by the way, from the other room. They're in the other room and they're like, Mommy, did you just swear on the phone? It's like, no, definitely not.
I've been through that exact thing with my kid too. I can totally relate.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I was pregnant with my twins, a great pregnancy. I loved being pregnant. One of those people. I just loved being pregnant. And I was like, I better enjoy this because I'm having twins. So this might be my, my only time. And I ended up having HELP syndrome at the very end, which is a really aggressive, dangerous form of preeclampsia. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know it. I went up for my checkup at UVM Medical Center because even though I live in Montpelier, I was a high-risk pregnancy because of the twins and a variety of other things. So I was getting the most world-class healthcare at UVMMC, as a pregnant mom. And I ended up having to have an emergency C-section because they realized I had this HELP at the 11th hour, kind of just a random blood test. And so I had this emergency C-section at 33 weeks. And I was in the NICU. I was in the hospital for a couple of days sort of recovering myself. And then, the kids were in the NICU for 3 weeks and all they had to do was grow. But it was unbelievable. First of all, the silver lining, you never expect to start your journey as a family and as a mom, like that. But I feel like you can't have any expectations for something like that. It's always going to be something wild, something different. As long as everyone's safe and healthy, it's good. And the silver lining was we had a team of medical professionals, some of the most incredible humans you will ever meet. Those NICU nurses, oh my goodness, helping us be parents. Like they were calm as cucumbers. Like, okay. Like, their baby's fine, and this is how you put them to sleep and make sure they're on a schedule. Like, do not get them off this schedule. And here's how you change their diaper. It was amazing. And I watched this happen sitting in the hospital for 3 weeks. I watched this complex enterprise. You know what I mean? It's more complicated than a city, the way UVMMC functions. And I got a phone call from, Aly Stickney, actually at the time, and great community leader, who said, we would like you to be on the board of UVM Medical Center. And I was like, well, great timing. You just saved my life and my kids' lives, I got to give back, And so I'm so fascinated by healthcare. I think it's so critical. Obviously, it's a human right. It's so critical to our society, and it's so broken on so many levels. I was like, of course I'll do this. So I got my feet wet for a couple of years there, and I was starting to get pretty despondent, pretty worried, seeing it from that angle, because basically what it looks like, every single problem in our society comes home to roost in the emergency room. So our lack of housing, our opiate epidemic, our mental health crisis, you name it. And then, toss in a pandemic. And we function within a broken national healthcare structure. So little Vermont, try as we might, there's not a lot of levers we can pull to fix it. So I was getting pretty worried. And then when I got my feet more grounded on the issues, I realized, actually, no, we can actually be doing a lot more in Vermont right now as far as bringing down costs and access. And so this is one reason I'm so excited to sort of step into this role, because the urgency doesn't feel like it's there. These things are really like 5 alarm fires. I'm going to go back to that. It's really, really urgent. And I don't see people, including this administration, working with the kind of urgency we need. Healthcare is a perfect example. Almost every single one of our rural hospitals is staring down bankruptcy. Imagine how terrible that's going to be for these communities. We can't let that happen. And so one of the things we do is we've seen in other places in the country, you create focus centers. Okay, so who's going to do the hip surgeries and who's going to do the foot surgeries? You know what I mean? It's not rocket science. You keep your emergency room open, you focus, you get economies of scale, and you don't lose all those jobs. You don't lose those local hospitals. But only the government can collaborate because there's antitrust laws. The hospitals can't do this on their own. You need someone to get in there. So I'm looking at this saying, we had a report 2 years ago saying we have to do this. Everyone agreed. Didn't happen. Got a consultant. They were there for a couple months, fired the consultant. They're on to the second consultant. I've seen zero progress. That's not the kind of urgency we need with something like this. For me, it's like, this should have been done yesterday. I would have hired the best facilitator in the country to come here and help support these hospitals to figure this out. It can be done. I'm saying, I don't want to say, these are not easy things. These are hard conversations, but they're absolutely necessary. We'll have more quality, we'll have more access, and we will keep these hospitals open. That's just one example of many that the government has a role, and we just are not stepping up to the plate.
Love that.
So we talked about healthcare, housing, education, infrastructure, kind of the core metrics of what makes up our state.
Yeah.
And so many of these have gone hard south over the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And yet we have a governor who's overseen this that remains very popular.
Yeah.
How do you start to make the case that we need a change at the top?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting proposition. I'd say thank you, Governor, for your service. You've been a manager for us through the pandemic, and I thank you for that. And when people literally can't afford to live here, we've got a problem. It is time for a new approach. It's time for new energy. For me, it's time for a positive vision, because I believe the governor has diagnosed the problems perfectly. And he's been a goalie. He has swatted away some things that maybe would have made things worse. It's true. But we can't afford a goalie. We need a strategic offense. That's what we did for childcare. We cannot just say, we're in the death spiral here in Vermont. Sorry, it's bad, 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 bad. We cannot say that. So then how do we cut ourselves out of the death spiral? How do we move it into growth? Businesses do this all the time. That's why it was so amazing to work with business leaders on childcare. This was a data-driven, research-informed effort over very many years with the people most impacted calling the shots: parents, early childhood educators, businesses. So we need to do that with housing. We need to do that with healthcare. We need to do that with basic economic growth in Vermont. So what I think is missing, we know the problems. We've had a lot of the finger wagging. Where is the vision? Where are the solutions? Because again, I know this job intimately. I've seen it up close, including when I worked for a governor for many years. The truth is, the administration and the governor's office have a lot of power. Those are the experts. That is the staff, okay? The legislature is a part-time volunteer civilian legislature without a staff. They are trying to do things that are helping here, but it's really not fair to say, okay, Vermont, we got all these problems. Go ahead and figure this out. Part-time volunteer legislature without staff. Yeah. You know what I mean? Time was we'd bring all of the power of both branches together to collaborate. Like the chair of each committee would be working with the commissioner or secretary, and bringing all the weight of the data and the experts and the staff together. That's what I don't see happening. So I think it's the job of the executive branch to lead, to create a vision, to create a plan. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I'm out here campaigning on a plan. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but I got to tell you, I like a good plan. Yeah. We don't have a statewide economic development plan. Haven't in 10 years.
Yes.
So how do we know? And that's the thing. And so the legislatures out there obey. How do we know when we pull this lever, what's going to happen over here? If things fit together in a small place like Vermont, we have to know what's step 1, step 2, step 3. So I believe when you do something like build houses and you broaden our economy, then you can start thinking about the services that our citizens so desperately need, right? But it's about a plan. Step 1, step 2, step 3. How do we get there in a way that is meaningful?
Elizabeth Warren did she didn't win, but a lot of people like that she had a plan. She had plans. I was on her team, so I just have to put that out there. Okay, so we talked a bunch about policy. We're going to talk about politics for a second.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a question that people ask me all the time. How do you feel about being in a contested primary?
I love it. I know, call me crazy.
No, I'm with you.
Here's the deal. I love democracy. Is that the weirdest thing anyone's ever said? I mean it, though. I want voters to have choices. I want reasonable debate. Yeah. Here's my history teacher dad showing up. The Lincoln Douglas debates. Do you know what I mean? They sharpen our focus. They bring the conversation forward. Bring it on. I love a good policy debate, because that's where the ideas come out. That's where, you can see the friction, you can see the opportunity and the challenges. So, and I just need to really put my thumb on this one. More women, please and thank you. Please. I mean, like women running for, it's so exciting right now in Vermont to see so many women running for so many offices, statewide and local offices, and putting themselves on the line, fighting for what is right. That's going to be a healthy dynamic for our society.
Yeah. And a lot of moms and like parents of school-age kids, more than I've seen before. I love that you've got kids. I've got a kiddo who's been front and center on my campaign too. And it's been fun to see like other parents with kids. I know it's hard, right?
Yeah.
But to like be a parent and have like, school age parent families in the ecosystem, I think really changes the debate.
And look, I'm going to have boundaries, because it's like, look, if you want the energy that I bring, the problem solving that I bring, sort of the expertise that I've been able to sort of grow in Vermont over so many years, and the perspective I have as a mom, great. I'm going to be able to do this job. I know it. We led the Let's Grow Kids, movement when I had much younger kids. I have a village. I have an amazing, supportive husband. I have parents. I'm so lucky to have parents. I still have my grandmother who's 90 years old. She turned 90 this past week.
Congratulations.
She's from Spain. She's amazing. And so we just have this wonderful multi-generational family dynamic. I have wonderful friends. I have wonderful neighbors. We have a village. This is how we've always functioned, by the way. From the beginning of civilization, we function in a village. It's only the 21st century that you're like, nope, isolate yourself as a nuclear family by yourself, and shame on you if you like don't stay at home all the time with your kids. It's only a new phenomenon. I spent a lot of time thinking about this, running the Let's Grow Kids movement. So I think that it's about balance. Everything is. It's about balance. It's about boundaries. But honestly, since you went there on the kid thing, part of my big hesitation when I was deciding to do this was my family. It's so important to me. I don't want to mess it up. And I just had this realization over a lot of deep thought. I'm not going to change the human being that I am by doing this. And I'm not going to be a different mom. I'm not going to be a different wife or daughter. And honestly, it's activating more of who I am and what makes me me and fires me up. And that's good, I think, for my kids to see.
Yeah. I just stole your next question by accident.
I think we can still.
Yeah,
we can still make it
rock
work.
it. Okay,
Sure.
Sorry, I felt like moved in the moment.
I just want to throw in there that when Let's Build Homes came on the scene, I had a hard time not calling them Let's Grow Homes.
Oh yeah.
And we had Moreau on here, and he said, "Oh, we ran it by Aly."
That's right.
First.
I like it.
Well, he called me, and it was funny. He called me and said, we're thinking about a new name and stuff. And I was like, look, are you calling to ask and say if you can say Let's Grow Homes? And he's like, no, let's build homes. And I was like, perfect. It's great. Look, we don't own the word let's. It's a great word.
Well, your branding worked very well.
Yeah.
Your time on Let's Grow Kids, I have to imagine spending so much time around kids and families opened your eyes and sharpened your focus on what Vermont needs to be to grow.
Yes.
We're the second oldest state in the nation. What did you learn from that experience that you want to bring to governor?
Oh, man, exactly. You already said it in the question. Bottom line is we have to make Vermont the best place in the country to raise kids, to be a working family. Because our demographics, that's the root cause of everything we've just discussed today. That's what this governor says. That's what we all know. We need more younger families here, because that's how an economy functions. You have to have the pieces for an economy to work. You have to have the workers in these jobs. And by the way, this is so amazing about Vermont. We have these wonderful businesses. We have this from small businesses to these amazing folks, right here where, around where we're sitting. They have jobs. Mm-hmm. They just don't have anyone to be in the jobs. Mm-hmm. How many businesses have told me I can get to a certain size and then I hit a brick wall in Vermont. I just can't grow. Right. So basically, if you're going to grow your business, you have these choices in Vermont where you have to sacrifice and maybe move away. So for me, it's like, it's not just the smart thing to do for our economy. It's necessary. It's the right thing to do. And that's the thing, that's why childcare was so amazing. It's like, wait a minute. When we get this right, it's to support a child at the most critical time in development. And again, we never, ever, and this is important to me, made a philosophical statement about whether kids should be in childcare or should be at home. Nope. No. That's a family choice. This is not a compulsory grade. It's about choices. The truth is, Kids now just are not in the home for whatever reason. Women are working, single parent homes, need 2 incomes, whatever it is. And they needed some sort of childcare and they weren't getting it. They weren't getting it. So it was like, this is the most critical time of a kid's development. We know that so clearly now from research, from everything. And we should give them everything we got because that will set them up for a lifetime of success. Oh, and guess what? When we do that, everyone benefits because you're letting that parent go to work. You know, you're getting a job. You're creating a job for that early child educator. You're raising their wage. It is an amazing return on investment. That's why Ben Bernanke and like Janet Yellen, like the chair of the Fed, they've talked about this as like the best return on investment. So for me, it has to be the focus, right? It's like that root cause. Yeah, but then you have to understand, like, what is it really that people need? You can't make assumptions. Right. Again, like I mentioned earlier, put the parents in the driver's seat, you know, put the kids and, you know, sort of their potential as the number one thing. And honestly, it gets you this collective goal that keeps people together. You know, for us, the childcare thing is a great example. This is really important. There's going to be trade-offs. It's going to be hard. It's going to require our focus. We kept renewing this goal and reminding ourselves it was important enough to keep that focus, keep that patience, and understand like what the real solution was.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So you're born in Vermont. So you've been in Vermont a long time.
I moved here when I was 3.
Oh, you moved here. Sorry. Botched your narrative a little bit. But so you've been here for a long time.
Yeah.
So one of my questions to you is, what have you seen over that arc change for the positive here in Vermont over that time?
Well, I hear a thing or two about childcare being
Yeah, that I've heard good stuff about that.
Well, you know what's funny, and back to your question a little bit too on that, Andy. We can corner the market on this. If Vermont needs young families, we're the first place to actually offer high-quality, affordable childcare. You know, we're setting ourselves on a path. It's not perfect yet. I really want to make sure we know that. We set ourselves on a path. We're showing it's possible. Affordability, access, quality, all going up. We have to keep our eye on the prize. There's more work to do. But you know, we could corner the market, and we are, and we should be singing that from the rooftops. I don't hear anyone advertising.
I wonder how much marketing we're doing
Vermont.
on that.
No, none.
Real.
We should be singing it from the rooftops, right? Hey, guys, Vermont is a wonderful place. We know that. Come here. Help us build the housing that you can live in.
Right.
Guess what? We're moving on childcare. Look at our values. So that's a huge positive thing. I will say also, we've maintained our sense of community through thick and thin. And my goodness, there's been a lot of thick and thin. You know, the way we're showing up for our communities, especially now, when the very idea of democratic government is under attack in this country. Like, we are fighters. I see that fight. I see that in communities. I see people training themselves to like understand these complex dynamics and how to show up in a way that makes sense. You know, I'll talk about universal school meals for a second because I'm obsessed with this. It's again a symbol of the kind of thing we can do here in Vermont. Like when I was a kid, I actually helped expand free breakfast at Oxbow. And then when I was in Governor Shumlin's administration, I helped expand free lunch. And understanding the issue and understanding this to see the universal school meals thing has been amazing because it's streamlining a system. You know, we can be creative here. We streamline a system. So we're actually offering more and more meals now for less cost because we got rid of all the administration, you know, and all the sort of like detail around that. So, and the most amazing thing, and the hospitals are part of this too, is we are keeping farms in Vermont open. We're keeping those jobs open because they have a guaranteed contract to give food, fresh food to the schools and to our hospitals. And so basically it's this like beautiful virtuous cycle as opposed to the like death spiral we talked about where we're keeping the farms open, we're keeping the jobs open, our kids and folks in the hospitals get fresh local food, and we're doing it for less money because it's just really efficient and effective. And then we keep ourselves less vulnerable to the whims of our wild president. You know what I mean? So the more things we can do like that in Vermont, where we sort of are codependent with ourselves, but independent, and we can do stuff like that on energy too. I just don't think we're doing enough or fast enough, you know, because that's a great, you know, example. I cannot tell you how many Vermonters have told me, gosh, if I could just afford that pellet stove, I would be able to pay less for energy the rest of my life. Right now, I can't afford to be in my house because my oil bill. I just don't have the access to that upfront capital. But if I did, I'd pay like a fraction of my weekly cost, my monthly cost, and it'll be good for the world because will help us get off oil and, you know, and be at the mercy of whatever war we're gonna wade into next, you know? So this is the sort of thing I see that we're doing in some cases and fighting to do, right? It's like every year universal school meals has sort of been on the chopping block, right? Like, but it's working so well. And it's not to mention giving our kids this nutrition that they need to be, you know, healthy and successful in school, and this getting the stigma down. So we're all just like having meals together. So that's just one example. I use it because it's symbolic, I think, of like the kind of creativity and efficiency and like fixed economy things we can do here.
It's interesting at this moment when the state may be looking at a SNAP waiver, it just kind of casts, sorry about my voice here, but it really kind of shows how important school meals are, you know, like you're right that it does create more resilience in the community.
So much so.
Yeah, I hadn't
it's
thought
how
about that.
kids eat in Vermont.
Yeah.
I remember during COVID, that's when this all happened. It was like, you know, necessity is the soul of invention. We needed to do this during COVID. And then we realized, oh, what a great idea. And it works really well. And it's really streamlined. So let's continue to do what's working. That's the other thing. Once you see something that's working better, like a balance of remote work, for example, it's hard to understand why you'd go back. When something in innovation works and supports humans and is efficient and effective, got to sort of understand those things and, you know, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm going to change up the question a little bit because
All
I had
right.
one pop to mind. I mean, it seems to me one of the biggest challenges of being a governor in the United States right now is negotiating with the president of the United States, who is mercurial at best. What do you think about Vermont's approach to the federal administration, and how would you change that if you were in charge?
It's such a great question. And again, we're talking about balance a lot. And I think because that's the name of the game in all the pieces here. You can't do something that makes us more vulnerable as a state. This is the problem. The way that this country is set up right now, it is just not right in so many ways. And it makes the states vulnerable. On the same hand, you need to fight. You have to fight. I would have never just given the SNAP, you know, and data, you know, right away. You know what I mean? You saw what was happening in Minnesota, and here we were like, what's happening in Vermont? Oh, well, we just sort of gave that. You know what I mean? Like, I think we can be very strategic and thoughtful while we fight what's right and really like stand up for our democracy and our citizens. The bottom line on this one, Andy, it's about protecting our communities, period. What does that look like? And that's a balance, but it is a lot of fierce determination and focus on protecting our communities as our number one priority. And you just have to be strategic. You just have to be strategic so you're not accidentally, you know, poking the bear and making yourself more vulnerable. But I believe there is a way to thread that needle.
Nice. All right. So this question, I'm really obsessed with the intersection between politics and style and like branding and look and all that kind of stuff. And I was really intrigued by your campaign branding, and maybe we'll drop an image into the video so folks can see it. It's a flower. It's much more feminine than we've seen before. I love it. And I was curious if you could talk with us a little about how you got there.
Oh, I love this question. Yeah, I haven't talked about this, but here you go. I'll give you the inside my brain on this. So basically, the logo process was a funny one for me, right? Because it's like, all right, Aly, tell us who you are. And I'm like, how do I do that? I've never like described it before. It was pretty funny, actually. I had some folks who were volunteering helping me launch this over in my house. And my kitchen table has become HQ, which I love. And I was like, I don't know. Look at this wall over here. This wall describes me. And we look at the wall, and it's this like amazing explosion of all this like art that my kids have brought home, and like the family calendar and like this pop of color. And I was like, well, green is my favorite color, which is great because that's Vermont's color. And it's just not me if we don't have this like this pop of like, you know, exuberance in it too. And they're like, okay, how do we work with this, Aly? Come on, help us. You know, but I think that's where we got to with that, Joanna. It's basically just like, just wanted to be representative of me, which was hard to tease out. But at the end of the day, really simple, really straightforward, really pragmatic, and fun. You know what I mean? So you see what happened. You say the flower. The clover emerged. When we realized what my favorite colors were, they were the colors of the state flower. the red clover, like a pinkish purpley, but I don't just love that by itself. I like it when it's paired with green, which is my favorite color. So it was it was sort of just a funny thing and all of a sudden it's like, well, of course the clover. It's the state flower. And you plant it in fallow fields to regenerate the soil. It's a nitrogen fixer, right? And like my organic farmer friends are just like, oh, please, thank you. The clover, this is what we need right now in Vermont. So, and it is feminine. I'm not going to shy away from that. I'm a woman. I think we've got to just have a healthy balance of all kinds of leaders. And I think that is healthy. But you'll see, I'm going to use the clover as an accent, and really I have this just like very straightforward standard with the clover colors, Aly for Vermont, and that's really who I am too, by the way, Aly. This is a funny thing too, because like Aly Richards, that's my name. That'll be on the ballot, but I'm Aly. Anyone who knows me, it's really who I am. So decided just to go for straight talk.
That's awesome.
And anyone who's mowed a lawn in July
Oh,
in
yeah.
Vermont knows you mow a clover down, it's back in 15 minutes. You can't knock it down.
Persistence.
That's right. So I get the last question. I imagine you will be consuming a lot of creamies as you drive around the state this summer. What is your order when you go to a creamy stand?
Oh, maple creamy on a gluten-free cone. Sadly, so many places have gotten their gluten-free cones going, which is amazing because I'm a cone girl. And I unfortunately have a gluten sensitivity, which is very sad. I know.
Yeah.
I love breads and all sorts of things, but I will say Vermont has really showed up for me. There's so many great, Bonte Bakery, for example, so many great alternatives, but I cannot wait to go on the creamy tour. And that was part of how I got my kids to be okay with all this change. It's just like, we're going to just go and taste them all. And, I live in Montpelier, so we go equally to Bragg Farm and Morse Farm.
Yes.
And so
that's on our list.
That will be my top.
Okay.
That will be my to beat. They are a tie. And now I'll be on the road trying to see if anyone can hold a candle.
And do you...
Of course, the creamy. I was going to say the creamies where things get real.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Do you get sprinkles?
I will happily eat my kids' leftover sprinkles to clean them up for that crunch.
Okay.
I usually don't get it on my own.
Okay. All right. Interesting answer. I respect that. Yeah. That's a solid mom answer right
twice.
there.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice.
Be like, hey guys, I think you're dripping a little there. Let me clean it up for you.
Yeah.
Well, Aly, congratulations on announcing the run, and we really appreciate you taking some time to talk to us. Good luck.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you both doing this. It's really fun to hear the voices of Vermonters. I love being here.
Aw, thank you.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode.
Thank you all for listening.
Follow us between episodes for the latest updates on our socials at There's No A in Creamy on Instagram, Substack, and Blue Sky.
And catch us on our next episode of There's No A in Creamy, Vermont Politics, Culture, and Beyond in Apple Podcasts and Spotify.